For latest updates and short audio clips, follow us on Instagram, Reading the Author.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast Reading the Author, a unique show where we read authors' mind and not their book. Meanwhile, I truly believe and pray that you and your families are completely safe and healthy as well. Guys, today we have Arnab Basu sir with us, and he is the author of Pseudo Ecotourism in the Shadow of the Bengal Tiger. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on our show. I'm truly grateful that you have chosen us.
Thank you, Gaurav, for hosting this podcast, and it's an honor and a pleasure actually having conversations with you.
Likewise, sir. So, sir, before we get into the podcast and know much more about your book, about your upcoming projects and everything, I would request you to please introduce yourself so that our listeners can know much more about you, and do let us know how you started this writing journey.
Okay, so I'm basically a sustainability consultant by profession. I mean, I'm academically trained in the subject of environment science and sustainability, and in my profession also, I'm doing sustainability advisory services actually for various type of industries, and that's what I have been doing for last 22 years to make my living. So if I talk about how I've started writing this book, beside my sustainability profession, I also have a hobby of wildlife photography and ecotourism, which is essentially exploring forests and mountains at various parts of the world. This particular hobby I picked up around 10 years back, somewhere around 2015. And when I picked up this hobby, this had nothing to do with my sustainability profession. I just picked up this hobby because I thought actually that doing wildlife photography and exploring forests and mountains are kind of adventure, and probably that would kind of help me to be the talking person, the talking points actually in my societal circle. So basically, I wanted to be the most interesting person in the room.
Okay.
And I thought that doing wildlife photography and roaming in forests and mountains probably a way of doing a cool thing actually. And that's the only reason I picked up. And then when I started doing and getting more and more deeply involved in ecotourism and wildlife photography, I realized that the way we do wildlife photography or the way we do ecotourism as a recreational hobby, there is something not quite right. And that kind of then compelled me to think the whole, the aspect of ecotourism and wildlife photography through the glasses of a sustainability professional.
Okay.
And that kind of triggered, that certain thought process, which eventually made me writing this book.
Wonderful. So, sir, what I personally feel that, after listening to this podcast, many people will just love to explore this book. They might be interested in buying and reading it too. So when it comes to talking from a new reader's perspective, how do you define pseudo ecotourism to them? And how is it different from authentic ecological travel?
Okay, so before that, I would like to clarify what exactly we mean by ecotourism. Ecotourism in general knowledge or in general understanding is, going to natural destinations for recreation. So tourism itself we do as a matter of recreation, right? When we go for vacation, we go for tourism. And when we say ecotourism, that's basically when we visit various natural destinations. Now, ecotourism is not just a mere recreational activities. What are the overarching purposes of ecotourism? Overarching purposes of ecotourism are, of course, experiencing authenticity of the nature, having authentic natural experience, and also at the same times generating awareness about the ecosystems, about the ecology, where then human and non-human life forms live together, coexist, cohabit. So developing that awareness is also another important aspect of ecotourism. So therefore, ecotourism is very much an educational activities through the ways of recreation. Okay. Now, what happened when we just want to do ecotourism with a particular focus on a particular agenda of seeing a particular species. For example, if I when with context of this particular book, if I talk about, then when I started doing ecotourism as my hobby, my only agenda, as I said, that first and foremost, the one thing is in my mind was to be the most interesting person in the room, to be the talking point in my social circle. And how I thought I could have done that? I thought I need to see Bengal tiger, because Bengal tiger is the most glorified animal, the apex predator, most ferocious animal in Indian subcontinent, in the forest of Indian subcontinent. Everybody correlate Bengal tiger as a symbol of glory, symbol of power, and symbol of I would say that something a megafauna, if we talk about, right? Majestic species probably in the planet. So I thought that if I get to see Bengal tiger, and if I can take photographs actually of Bengal tiger, and I can share actually those photographs and my experiences of encounter with Bengal tiger in my social circle, then I'll be something very important. So that was the agenda which drove me to the forest of Bengal tiger. But we need to understand one thing, that forests are not just about Bengal tiger. Forest, actually Bengal tiger is just the apex predator, but there are many other species which kind of contribute in the development of the forest, which help in maintaining the robustness of the forest, the vitality of the forest. It's about everything. Every species, every living and non-living form, even the people are also part of the forest, the indigenous people who live in the forest. Now, if we go to the forest to see only Bengal tiger, only want to take the photographs of Bengal tiger, seeing Bengal tiger in any forest is a matter of luck. You just need to be at the right place at the right time. You may see, you may not see, but you go for a safari, you go for tourism activities, in a tiger reserves or national parks, all your money, time and energy, effort you channelize to one single species, and end of the day you're not lucky enough to see that and come back disappointed. Your objective was to have some recreation, to take break from your daily mundane, but even you come back more disappointed because you wanted to see tiger, you could not see tiger, whereas nature offered many other things. You did not see them. You ignored them because all you wanted to see is tiger. So this type of ecotourism actually in a scientific and socioeconomic point of view, I termed as pseudo ecotourism in this book.
Okay, noted. So like, when it comes to you, what was the first moment during your travels that made you stop and say like, okay, this is more than a hobby. This is transforming me. Any moment like that?
There are quite a few moments actually. I mean, the first thing when I started questioning myself about this type of ecotourism is when I saw actually that there's something had happened. The conceptualization of book also had happened through certain incidents. So when I was traveling actually to the Bangladesh part of Sundarban, and then something had happened and I was basically traveling from Dhaka to Khulna to reach at Bangladesh part of Sundarban by train, and then something had happened during the train journey, and because of that I got stuck in Bangladesh for some indefinite period of time. So that kind of provided me some opportunity or some time actually to introspect that the way we are doing our ecotourism is right or wrong. And exactly a year later, in the Indian part of Sundarban, something more horrific I had experienced. I mean, people who have read the book, they know what I'm talking about. People who have not read the book, I don't want to give away too much actually. They read the book and they will know it. But in the Sundarban part of India, probably the most horrific experience I had in my entire 10-11 years of ecotourism activities. So these two incidents kind of made me introspect the way we do our ecotourism activities, especially the wildlife photography focused ecotourism and chasing one single species. So these are the two big moments probably kind of started transforming the way I was thinking until then, and then actually that correlation of the why we do ecotourism, how we should do ecotourism kind of questions I started looking for, and that was a kind of transformational moment. These are the two things, and another important thing had happened, which much later actually of these two incidents, I met one person. I met one person in the rainforest of Western Ghats.
Okay.
And there I got a completely different lesson of the way we should see the entire ecosystems. When we do tiger safari in forest, we see the entire ecosystem from a very different point of view. But that person actually taught me that what the much more effective way of seeing ecosystems and understanding actually the various elements of ecosystems and their relations. So these are actually the moments which kind of transformed my thought process.
Okay. That is quite really inspiring, sir. And that comes to my next question to you of this podcast is you mentioned terrible events shaped your journey, right? So when it comes to you, would you be open to share one that left a lasting impact?
Yeah, I mean, as I told that, probably in your previous question, I kind of answered that the incident which happened while my traveling to Bangladesh part of Sundarban, and the second incident which had happened in the Sundarban part of in the West Bengal or the India part of Sundarban. These are the two moments, and one of them was really terrible. Kind of transformed. I don't want to give away actually much about it, because those are the incidents should be read in the book. People who have read the book, they already know what I'm talking about. But a lot of people probably have not read the book, so they know about it.
Okay. So there's a saying, sir, to get a better perspective, you have to lie down, right?
Yeah.
So what does this philosophy means to you today, and how did it change your life outlook?
Yeah. So this is actually the third moment, Gaurav, which I was talking about. I met one person in the rainforest of Western Ghats. That basically the place called Agumbe, which is in one of the forest area actually in the Western Ghats. It's known for various herpetofauna. So what do you mean by herpetofauna? Actually, by various snakes, various amphibians, frogs, and various types of insects. And more importantly, that place is known for king cobras, which is one of the largest venomous snakes we find in this part of the world. Now, particularly if I talk about that particular philosophy, that to get a better perspective, we have to lie down. I'll give a bit of context of that, and then I'll tell you that how it is kind of related to the philosophy of life. So that person is basically a wildlife photography mentor. His name is M.V. Sriram, and I mentioned about him many times in this book. A lot of people probably know him because he's quite a known person in the field of wildlife photography and ecotourism.
Okay.
So he mentioned this purely from the context of photography. Now, Gaurav, you understand that when you take photographs of tigers, you basically take the photographs of tiger from the safety of a safari gypsy. Right? People who have gone to various tiger reserves, they know that you sit in the safari gypsy and you see the tiger, you take the photographs of tiger. You are not even allowed to get down. That is basically dangerous for your life.
True.
But when you want to take photographs of tiny creatures like frogs or like insects or even snakes, you need to get as closer as possible to those creatures. Otherwise, you cannot take the photograph because they are very small very small creatures.
True.
So what you need to do to take photographs of these creatures, you need to walk through the forest, which is rainforest, the difficult terrain, And generally you do this in monsoon season because that time these creatures are more active. So that means it will be muddy, there will be water everywhere. So you need to get into mud, you need to get into the water. And when you see such small creatures, to take better photography, you literally need to lie down on the mud, on the water, on the puddle of water, or whatever actually are there on the forest floor. You literally need to lie down so that you can get the most, the perfect possible photographs of those creatures. So that was the context of him saying this particular, statement that to get a better perspective, you need to lie down. Now, if you to put this statement in the context of life, so as long as you are within your comfort zone, let's put the analogy of safari gypsy in tiger reserves with the comfort zone of your life. You never get to see how the world works around you, how various elements of world interacts with each other. You never get to see the reality. You always live in a virtual world because you are staying within the comfort zone. To know the reality of the world, you actually need to get out of your comfort zone, and that is basically the analogy you can draw on with lie down on the forest floor. So to being a much more conditioned person to face whatever may come in your life, and to become more resilient actually, because you do not know what kind of surprises are waiting for you in your life, right? Nobody knows going to know what happened tomorrow or going to happen 2 days later.
True.
You need to be resilient enough to deal with everything. You need to remain positive enough to deal with everything. And that is only possible when you are ready to face the reality. And you can actually face the reality when you're getting out of your comfort zone. You're actually lying down on the ground. You are more grounded actually. And then you're ready. Then you're more conditioned. So this is actually, the statement which came from Shyam, purely from photography point of view, can be directly influenced my way of seeing the life, my way of living the life actually.
So sir, as we're talking a lot about the tourism and, traveling and the Bengal tigers and all. So let's talk from a perspective of a traveler. How can travelers become more conscious about preserving wildlife without falling into the trap of, pseudo ecotourism?
Yeah, so there are two things actually. The first thing is that the traveler, which you have said, if I say actually tourists or eco-tourists, they first need to know that why they are taking part in tourism activities. The main reason for them taking part in tourism is, of course, recreation and entertainment. There is no denial about that, and that should be the main reasons. But through recreation and entertainment, what are you going to achieve, and what are you going to give back to the society? I'll give you one example actually. That just a month back, I was in Madagascar. If you have heard the name of the place, Madagascar in Western, it's basically in the Eastern Africa. Basically, it's not part of the mainland Africa. It's one island, probably world's third or fourth largest island. This is one of the most poverty-stricken country, Madagascar. If you talk about the United Nations Nations Index of Human Development, then Madagascar probably come 173 or something out of 190 countries. So it's at the bottom line basically. But at the same time, this is a country which is known for its mega biodiversity. The kind of biodiversity this country has, probably very few countries have. Most of the species are endemic, which can be found only over there. For example, if we talk about amphibian species, 100% endemism, then if all the amphibian species we find in Madagascar, we cannot find anywhere. This is the only space of the country of the world where you can find more than 100 species of lemur. Lemur cannot be found anywhere else. Lemur is a primate basically, arboreal animal. So I'll tell you what I experienced over there. So I was traveling from a place called Antsirabe to another place called Rano Mafana. These are the two different places known for their own biodiversity or wildlife in Madagascar. On the way, we stopped a place called Manandona. Yeah, that is the name of the place. Now, from Antsirabe to Rana Mafana is quite a long journey, almost whole day's journey. So tourists, whoever comes, especially the foreigner tourists like us or from other part of the country, they definitely stop at Manandona for some break, basically. And Malandona has a lot of scenic view opportunity. Basically, it's a top hill actually, so you can see the river, you can see the distant forest. So when our bus stopped there, we got down. We saw already there are some local kids. They're probably 10 years old local kids, African kids. They're waiting for us. They're holding twigs, the branches of trees. Mm-hmm. And every branches and trees had one chameleon on top of that, on the branch. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the 10 kids, the 10 different chameleons on the branch, very colorful chameleons, green, orange, bright red, bright yellow, you name. Yeah. And Madagascar's ecotourism is kind of symbolized by chameleons. In fact, most of the ecotour companies of Madagascar, their logo is chameleon. So people actually, even if you're not an ecotourist, if you're a general tourist, a recreational luxury tourist, you go to Madagascar to see various types of chameleons. Okay. Now, what is the story behind that? Those kids, they from very, very poor family. Their parents want them to earn money. So that's why they're waiting branches on those chameleons, which are captured from the nearby agricultural land or nearby forest. They are expecting the tourists will come, they take photos and give them money. Now, this is ecotourism. Okay. Now, what is the flip side of it? You are capturing those chameleons from the forest. You're keeping them as a pet. And when you talk to them, our local guide also told them that they keep those chameleons as long as those chameleons are healthy enough to remain photogenic,
to attract the tourist.
Yes, because those cannot live actually for long outside of their natural habitat. And when they are not healthy, they just leave those chameleon on the roadside or in the nearby land to die. Now, Gaurav, those kids are really poor. They need money. So you have to understand from their point of view. So they found it's an easy source of making money because they know tourists want to see chameleons. Therefore, tourists will pay money for that. Now, tourists, we could have responded in a different way, right? We should have known that what's the impact of this ecotourism? What are the impact of capturing those chameleons? How those that can affect forest and the ecosystems? If this trend continues, there will be no chameleons at all.
True.
By the way, those chameleons, we had a herpetologist actually in our team who is expert of this. He identified those chameleons as critically endangered. So very few already exist already in the planet, right? Now as an ecotourist, we could have told them, or other people who are basically give money to those kids, they should have told them that no, we don't want to take photographs like this. If you want to really see chameleons, then we'll do hard work. We'll walk through the forest. We'll go wherever the remote places are there. And we try to see chameleons. If we see, we'll take photograph. If we do not see, we'll not take photograph. We'll not do this kind of artificial human interventions just to take photographs. If you really want to, now you can say that they're a poor kid, they need money. If you really want to give them money, you give them money in various other ways. Right? Those kids are selling fruits also from the forest. They're selling handcrafts. They're selling souvenirs. You buy those and give them money.
Exactly.
So this is the thing actually, that what tourists, normal tourists, general tourists who are affluent basically. You are tourist because you have disposable income. That's why you are going to places like Madagascar or other places, right?
True.
So you're already a privileged person. So that means you have more education also. Use your education and use your common sense.
True.
So this is what I mean, a simple example, Gaurav, but everywhere, even in our country also, we can find many such examples. And this is what we need to understand actually, and need to change our own behavior first.
Okay, I agree on that, sir. Definitely. So, sir, probably my last question to of this podcast would be if your younger self was listening to this podcast right now, what would you say to him?
My younger self, okay. So, I would tell my younger self that I would thank actually my younger self, I would thank my younger self. Why I should thank my younger self? Because almost probably 25, 26 or probably more than that years back, I kind of made up my mind that I'll develop, I build my career around nature and environment. So 3 decades back, basically, And back in those days, nobody used to think like that we build our professional career around nature and environment. People used to think like, the more easy way to make money, either you become an engineer, become software engineer, or become doctor, or become, some kind of administrative work, but definitely not nature and environment. But I kind of decided that it was not easy because a lot of people were quite cynical about it. My well-wishers, they thought I took a complete wrong decisions. Probably I'm not able to make money or not to do anything good in my life. But nothing such thing had happened. I just stuck to my objective. I worked on that. There are difficult times. Many times I myself started doubting. I started doubting on myself actually whether I took right decisions or not. But eventually everything worked well, and today I'm here. So for that, probably I would like to thank my younger self to took that decision and stick to that decision for a long period of time.
Okay, so that's all for today, guys. I hope you must have enjoyed this lovely and inspiring conversation with Arnab sir. And if you do, then do follow our podcast, Reading the Author, available on all the leading podcast platforms. And don't forget to buy and read the book. You can just search on Google Pseudo Ecotourism in the shadow of the Bengal Tigers. You will get the book. Just buy it, read it, and share with your friends and family too. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on our show. It was my honor to be able to host you today.
Thank you, Gaurav. It was really nice interacting with you.
Pleasure.